Worried about gout? Check out Ural, the effective urinary alkalinizer. Ural, neutralize your uric acid problem now.
Welcome to KiniNews. I'm your host Prasad. Najib Abdul Razak is truly living up to his slogan Malu Apa Bossku, fine after fine for violating COVID-19 SOPs. That hasn't stopped him. But what is a 1,000 ringgit fine from health officials compared to being fined 210 million ringgit by the court over the SRC international scandal?
Najib Abdul Razak has been fined 5 times for violating COVID-19 SOPs. However, that hasn't stopped him from adding another crowded event last night. The Pekan MP turned up at 988 food court in the suburbs of Iskandar Putri to campaign for MCA Skudai candidate Lim Sun Hai. Some 200 people, many clad in BN's trademark blue, waited for Najib at the food court and swarmed around him as soon as he exited his vehicle at 9:40 p.m. Najib was greeted with a lion dance and was then escorted by supporters who chanted Bossku, Bossku to a long table where he was seated by Lim. Supporters surrounded the table and some took the opportunity to take photographs with him. Najib also delivered a speech framing Lim's DAP rival as a party that had turned its back on the Chinese community. BN's Lim is facing Harapan's Marina Ibrahim from DAP and Perikatan Nasional's Khoo Kong Ek. Najib, who has been convicted of abuse of power, criminal breach of trust and money laundering, has actively campaigned during the Johor polls. Yesterday, Health Ministry revealed that Najib had been fined 5 times for breaking the SOPs during the Johor polls campaign period.
A day before Johor votes, Zahid Hamidi tried to get Indian voters to reject Perikatan Nasional by spreading misinformation.
BN Chief Ahmad Zahid Hamidi tried to rile up Indian voters in Johor today. He did this by claiming that Perikatan Nasional allegedly did not field any Indian candidates to represent their community. However, this allegation is false. PN actually has 2 Indian candidates. PN's 2 Indian candidates are Bersatu's K. Alagentiran in Layang-Layang and Johor PAS supporters Wing Chief V. Salvendran in Paloh. Speaking to MIC campaign workers in Johor Bahru today, Zahid called on the Indian community to reject Muhyiddin Yassin and PN.
If you would like some insight on what kind of person Joe Low is, even those who allegedly worked with him did not really trust him.
Former Goldman Sachs banker Roger Ng recommended Joe Low as a client for Goldman Sachs while advising caution in March 2010. This was revealed by former Goldman Sachs compliance officer Patrick Kidney while testifying against Ng at a U.S. court yesterday. When asked to read a draft summary on Low produced by Ng, Kidney read, he did not find the individual's claim to be credible. The individual was in reference to Low. Kidney said Ng told Goldman Sachs that he had not heard of the individual apart from meeting with him on a single occasion. The same draft summary on Low said Ng was introduced to then Prime Minister Najib Abdul Razak. Ng had warned the compliance panel not to accept Joe Low's claim about the size and source of his wealth at face value. Following this, according to Kidney, the compliance panel spent 6 months trying to vet Low and eventually rejected him as a client in June 2010. Bloomberg speculated that prosecutors called Kidney as a witness to eventually demonstrate that Ng continued to do business with Low for years after the latter was rejected by Goldman Sachs. Ng was accused of conspiring with his former superior, Tim Leisner, to help Low scheme billions from 1MDB.
Johor votes tomorrow, so if you're eligible, please go out and vote. Unless you're COVID-19 positive, then please stay at home.
Voters under investigation and persons under surveillance for possible COVID-19 exposure will be allowed to carry out their democratic responsibility in Johor tomorrow. They will first need to obtain permission from district health officers. This does not mean COVID-19 positive voters can cast their ballots. However, voters who are showing symptoms related to COVID-19 will be allowed to vote. In a statement today, the Election Commission clarified that these voters will be allowed to vote in special tents monitored by health officials. A total of 1,021 polling centers and 4,638 channels will be open tomorrow for voting purposes for the Johor state election. Over 49,000 officers will be on duty for the voting process tomorrow. They are expecting over 2.5 million voters to cast their ballots tomorrow. All voters are required to wear a face mask, use hand sanitizers, and record their attendance, as well as practice social distancing while voting.
The Selangor government has decided to provide 10,000 ringgit cash aid to the families of the 4 deceased after a landslide at Taman Bukit Permai 2.
A landslide in Taman Bukit Permai, Ampang, yesterday has claimed 4 lives. The incident near the nation's capital also damaged 15 homes and 10 vehicles. The search and rescue operation for the victims began as personnel from the Pandan Fire and Rescue Station arrived at the scene after receiving a distress call at 5:54 p.m. An 84-year-old man was pulled out with minor injuries at 6:54 p.m. However, his wife was found dead at 7:53 p.m. before her body was pulled out at 9:15 p.m. The operation ended at 2 a.m. after Ampang Jaya District Police Chief ACP Muhammad Farouk Eshak confirmed that rescuers had found the bodies of all the victims. Meanwhile, Selangor Fire and Rescue Department Director Nur Azam Kamis said they would use K9 unit tracker dogs at the site of the landslide to ensure there are no other victims involved.
Harapan is afraid. That is why Zahid says they're open to sign another MOU with the government.
UMNO President Ahmad Zahid Hamidi has shut down a proposal for Putrajaya to strike another deal with Pakatan Harapan. Such a deal would thwart Zahid's ambition of a snap general election. He said a second memorandum of understanding is only meant to give Harapan time to strategize and avoid defeat if polls are held this year. He said Harapan has internal problems, meaning they are not confident. They feel they will be rejected by the people. Zahid added that people's desire have changed and their desire now is for BN. He was speaking at a press conference after visiting the MIC Election Operations Center in Tampoy, Johor. Zahid's faction in UMNO is using the Johor polls to pressure Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob to hold a snap general election if BN can win big in the state. Yesterday, DAP National Organizing Secretary Anthony Loke extended an olive branch to Ismail Sabri to sign a second MOU with Harapan. However, this will depend on whether the current MOU accomplishes important targets such as an anti-party hopping law. Loke said with Harapan's support, the Prime Minister could ignore pressure from Zahid's camp for snap polls.
It's tax season. I hope you filed your income tax returns. With that said, let's see how the government is spending your hard-earned cash.
The government has spent 600,000 ringgit on door gifts for the 100-day Aspirasi Keluarga Malaysia event as well as various other official Keluarga Malaysia events nationwide. The 100-day Aspirasi Keluarga Malaysia event was held over 4 days at the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre last December. It was held to mark the 100 days of Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob's administration. In a parliamentary written reply, Special Functions Minister Abdul Latif Ahmad said among the items provided were paper bags, face masks, hand sanitizer, caps and stationery. The Keluarga Malaysia event in KLCC last year saw over 103,000 visitors and was continued at the state level through the Aspirasi Keluarga Malaysia tour. The event in KLCC had been criticized and the organizers fined 1,000 ringgit as those attending mostly ignored physical distancing measures meant to curb the spread of COVID-19.
That is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. If you'd like to support independent media, do consider subscribing to MalaysiaKini.com. I'm Prasad. Thank you for watching.